morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone joining us from across the world. It's a pleasure to have you all participate in this farm webinar in partnership with the ASEAN IPM Action Plan on the important topic of combating illegal and counterfeit pesticides. We have a wonderful lineup of speakers, as you can see here on this page, from Lao PDR, Kenya, CropLife Asia, Syngenta, FAO, and the Basel, Rotterdam, Stockholm Secretariat. My name is Alison Watson, and I'm very pleased to be moderating this session today. Next slide, please. So the GEF-funded Financing Agrochemical Reduction and Management Farm Program, led by UNEP, is a multi-country initiative supporting the reduction and sound management of harmful pesticides and agricultural plastics through coordinated action at national, regional, and global levels. It brings together 7 country programs: Lao PDR, Kenya, India, the Philippines, Uruguay, Ecuador, and Vietnam, alongside a global platform of coordination, learning, and policy alignment. The issue we're discussing today is central to this work. So illegal and illicit pesticides undermine integrated pest management and sustainable agriculture by bypassing safeguards, harming ecosystems, and increasing resistance and long-term costs for our farmers. They also distort markets, erode trust, and weaken incentives for innovation, making it harder for all of us to advance safer, more sustainable solutions. Next slide. So today we will be sharing more information and a guidance note, but if you want just to know how to interact, and we want a very interactive session, we really encourage you to use chat to make a comment to everyone, thank the speakers, share links, highlight important points, and introduce yourself. For an efficient mode of asking questions, we would really encourage you to use the Q&A box. So put your questions to the speakers in the Q&A, and we'll actually be able to move through them much more efficiently. If you have any audio issues, you can click Join Audio button and you can actually play around with the settings there and check to make sure you're connected. You can also try logging off and on, and you can also reach out to the team in the back here, which I'm joined by Nadia and also Aditya, who are helping me from the farm team. Next slide. So this webinar is being recorded, and after the session you'll receive an email with a link to the recording and all the key materials shared today. And these will be available on the jeffarm.org web page. We also invite you to continue the discussion through the Ask the Expert function on the Green Forum, which is our online platform for knowledge exchange. And there you can post additional questions and engage with speakers for up to 7 days after the webinar. So you will be sharing a QR code with you in the chat later. Next slide. So this is just the guidance note that we'll also be sharing with you, and if you want more information and you want some links to resources, helpful resources on what we're speaking about today, you'll be able to access this information, and we'll be sharing that with you as well after the webinar. So just going on to the next slide, I just want to sort of really encourage you to ask questions to all our wonderful speakers, but we do have a lot, so please use that Q&A box. We've got speakers from across countries in the field working with farmers and regulators, etc., and policymakers and agricultural extension staff. And then we're also going to have an industry and international enforcement perspective with CropLife Asia and Syngenta joining us. And we'll end with talking about those international frameworks and support with the FAO and the BRS Secretariat joining us. So it's going to be a very busy session. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first speaker. And this is our first speaker is from Lao PDR. Next slide, please. And they will be talking about building the capacity of customs and border control officials in the country of Laos and how to identify and respond to illegal pesticide trade. So I'm very happy to be introducing Khampasith Sengsouvanh, a technical specialist from Farm in Lao PDR. So if you can now load your presentation. Khampasith, we're very happy to hear from you.
Okay. Good afternoon from Laos.
Khampasith,
Uh,
I'll just ask you. Perfect, excellent.
okay. Can you hear that? So, before I go to the presentation, I just would like to introduce myself again. My name is Khampasith Sengsouvanh. I'm the technical specialist in farm project in Laos. So we are sitting here. We have our colleague, M&E specialist, and then our implementing partner from government side so also joining the online. So we are working on this presentation together. So yeah. So based on the topic, building the capacity of custom and model content of fusion in Laos, PDR identify the response to illegal pesticide trade. So this is what the project implementing in Laos. For the content, actually we just skip BBs from the Lao contact and current pesticide management contract in Lao and institution arrangement and key stakeholder involved in pesticide management and capacity uphold and activity that we conduct in Lao and some key challenge. Yeah. Uh, for Lao, Lao is located in heart of the Southeast Asia. We have five countries that's bordering. In north, China, and then northeast is Vietnam, and west east is Myanmar and Thailand. In the south is Cambodia. So we have many border and then border and border checkpoint in Laos. So now we can. Yeah, it's a small country. The area is 236 and 800 kilo square meter, and we have 18 province and categorized in three zones. Northern, we have northern part is more on the geographic is mountain, but in central we have central and we have the south. Geographic zone we have mountains and plateau and some plateaus and plain, yeah, and plain along the river. For population now uh, is almost 8 million and 70% of them are dependent on agriculture and 88, 58 of the agriculture is dominant employer, especially for the people in the rural area, and 16% contributing to the GDP. Lao, the light is a staple crop for Lao, but we have cash crop and annual crop that can for commercial production for commercial purpose, like maize, cassava, and banana, sugarcane, vegetable, and bean for markets for international market or export market, and yeah, for domestic markets as well. In terms of pesticide management, so Lao uh, currently increasing also import for pesticide, also chemical and fertilizers. So and based on comparison, we have the data here is 5 year. So for the pesticide, we 2020 first we and 2025 for pesticide increasing 63%. For fertilizer is more than 100 percent. That's increasing. We if we compare 5 year back, and now the cross-border trade create risk of illegal and registered pesticide import because we have many traditional border checkpoint and yeah and the country is bordering with many country and also limited capacity border custom official and identify harmful illegal product. and continue trading use and advertising on banned pesticide. The challenge in pesticide regulation control, we have weak inspection capacity at border checkpoint and limited technical knowledge. Pesticide regulation among key actors and lack of identification tool and hazardous product. Informal border trade to the unmonitored use. Yeah, then based on that, we have some risk or impact on for the human health, also animal health, and environmental contamination, undetermining national pesticide declaration. This is the impact from the what we challenge. So for now, for the organizational involved in pesticide control, so we have uh, we uh, we have central and local level. That's for the central more for the policy development and monitoring and evaluation. And for the central, we have Ministry of Agriculture and Environment, especially Department of Agriculture, and for especially Division of Plant Quarantine Division and Division of Decorative Input and the Legislation Division. That's under Department of Agriculture. We have also another the ministry is Ministry of Financial. This is more involved with the Lao Custom Department. Yeah, this is for working in the border checkpoint. And another ministry is Industry and Commerce. This is for involved with Department of Enterprise, Legislation and Management. And the last one is Ministry of Public Security, this is Development and Environment Police. So then, at the local level, we have authority. We have in agriculture section, we have provincial of district agriculture and environment office, and for the Ministry of Financial in the local level, we have provincial and this district of custom office, and provincial and district of industry and commercial office, and provincial and district environment police office in the local level. So all of the mentioned institutional, they have collaborate and work together in pesticide control and management. For the organization involvement on pesticide control, Department of Agriculture, we have plant protection and decoration input registration and division. The mandate is more on legislation approval and prohibition of the pesticide product, evaluate and active ingredient and formulation standard, insurance of import and permits, import permit, more on import insurance and import permit, and inspection of agrochemical retail and distributor, monitoring and using and complying with at the farm level. This is under Department of Agriculture. For the Department of Environment,
One more minute,
the
Khampasith.
mandate is environment risk management and control hazardous chemical and waste management and disposal oversight. So the technical authority is Ministry of Agriculture and Environment. And for they will also collaborate with the Ministry of Public Security. The mandate of Ministry of Public Security is investigation of organized Smudging network, and enforcement on criminal penalty, and cross-border intelligence and coordination. And the third, Ministry of Financial. The mandate is a verification of import permit and documentation, inspection, agrochemical shipment, detection of chemicals, mislabeling and failed declaration, and illegal consignment. For the Ministry of Industry and Commerce, the Department of Enterprise Registration and Management is involved for pesticide management, pesticide and illegal pesticide and control. Their task is trade licensing and importer and for distributor. And the second task for import and export policy alignment and to manage the import and export policy alignment. And the last one is commercial compliance and monitoring on the business of pesticide.
We have 1 more minute, Khampasith, and then we need to finish.
Okay.
Thank you.
So the capacity approach, we train for the custom and border control officer and develop the material for them to identify material and identification guide and coordination among institutional between agriculture and custom agency and another leading one and agency, and includes awareness hygiene hazard pesticide. The training component, we have disseminated and legal framework, develop some leaky and some registration for develop legislation and disseminate to the from the center to Caro level for implementation, and identify of the listed and banned pesticide, and did some case study on illegal pesticide trade, and also capacitate them to understand HSPS and inspection procedure at the border checkpoint and enforcement action. This is the key component of the training. For legal framework, we have a Ministry of Agriculture and Environment, Technical Legislation, and Pesticide. This more on the legislation, and we have law on agriculture cultivation. This support by the farm project that to develop new law on agriculture, law on cultivation, and then law on chemical and decay on fertilizer, and we have law on plant protection and decay on pesticide, and then ministry decision of ministry on pesticide business registration control and agreement technical legislation pesticide. This is the law on the regulation and the legislation for implementation on the pesticide management management and control.
Okay.
The training on identification of listed and banned pesticide. One we support them to understand the WHO recommend classification pesticide by hazard and guideline classification in 2029, and then support them to identify the level harmful of the pesticide and some chemical, agriculture chemical. But basically, we use we use and we allow with the FAO manual and WHO manual guideline.
Khampasith, I'm going to have to stop you now. So if you're very close to finishing, maybe you could just go to your last slide or close through your slides. I just want time to ask you a few questions, so we really do need to finish and so if you want to just finish on your last slide.
Yeah, this one.
Yep. Maybe key enforcement actions and
This
just,
one.
yep. And
Yeah.
then just finish.
Yeah, for key enforcement action, so we have trained them for review for compliance with the Ministry Agriculture and Environment system, and yeah, to understand what is the document on that, and define the pesticide registration system, yeah, and identification of the HCP, and then clearly them to know and to understand the ban pesticide in law. Now we have 50, 50, 50, 55 and ban pesticide, and also for the list for the retailer or for the distributor, they need to know understand and to know and understand on the good management practice, and for the user also train them to safety and standard adoption. And we also train, we have digital and app that used for tracking the volume and the quota and the Caro level to synchronize with the central level, that the distributor and the seller, they register in the DOA, in the Department of Agriculture.
Excellent.
So we for comparison.
Well, thank you so much, Khampasith, and I'm sorry that you and we're going to talk about these key challenges soon.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you about your key challenges, but I just have a quick question, and then we're going to move to our speaker from Kenya, and then we're going to come back and ask you some questions, both of you. But just a quick question while Kenya is getting ready. You mentioned that you have a digital platform that you've been using. How useful has or how easy is it been to develop the digital platform and have people use it?
Um, Thank you for your question. This one we based on the challenging that when we doing some enforcement. So sometimes the enforcement team that they touching some chemical, so is dangerous or not. So especially they identify the harmful hazardous and pesticides, so they to avoid to say to detail of the name. So we develop this app and for them to easily to take the record and then check the uh, content of container of yeah, to look at the container of the pesticide. Also also this the app also we compare with the uh, to check the document
Okay,
requirement of the Lao government system. So the team can be able to yeah to evaluate. For example, this business person, so
okay,
they comply with what they comply with the Lao government system, but they not comply. So they can
okay,
monitoring and yeah and have some recommendation
excellent.
for them. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for sharing that. And just on that note around uh, y- uh, data systems, digital systems. I see that Stephen Robinson from FAO has, or I'm not sure if you are from FAO, but has shared that FAO has developed a generic electronic pesticide registration system which can be tailored to country needs. So it takes about 1 year effort. So thanks for sharing that in the chat. Campus, so thank you very much. I'm sorry to rush you, but we do have quite a tight time frame. So if you can if you can turn your video off, but we'll come back and ask you some questions, and there may be some questions in the Q&A for you. I'm going to move on to Kenya, so we're going to have just 10 minutes maximum for our speaker from the Pest Control Products Board in Kenya, and that is Mr. Lawrence Kalawa Ikiba, who's the General Manager, Compliance and Enforcement of the Pest Control Products Board. So welcome, and you can start. Thank you. You may just have to unmute yourself.
Thank you very much, Alison.
Perfect.
The video, you have disabled my video from your head. Pest Control Products Board is a state corporation in the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development, and our main responsibility is regulating the pesticides industry in Kenya, where regulation begins with registration and post-registration activities, including disposal. Steve, it's not moving. Steve, there's outline for the presentation, and probably for generality, we define what are illegal pesticides. In the context of Kenya, uh, illegal pesticides are categorized into 4 groups. One is a group of pesticides that have been that are within the country, but they have not passed through the registration process. These are the ones we describe as unregistered. Then we have pesticides that are registered in Kenya, but we have an imitation of the same, and these are the ones we call counterfeits. Are also in circulation in our country in small percentages. And we have the third category where they improperly repackaged. Improperly packaged pesticides is an authorized format of packaging. So in departure from the authorized packaging processes, then those products are also described as illegal pesticides. We have also those that are expired and the ones that are obsolete. So that the 4 categories that constitute illegal pesticides in Kenya context. During inspections, we encounter many of them, and on the screen are some images of an registered or unauthorized pesticides that our inspectors have encountered during post-registration surveillance. Next is the same. Now images, and you've noticed in public health. There are 99% are in public health, not in agriculture. And as we see later on, they are coming from within Eastern Africa and beyond. The product on my left on the screen is a genuinely registered pest control products, and the opposite is an imitation of the same, and the one we describe as counterfeits. So images are very similar, more similar than what I've shared. A similar comparison, a genuine against a counterfeit. This is an example of improperly packaged. You see, there are no instructions. These are unauthorized packaging, and they have qualified to be illegal pesticides in the country. Again, part of repackaged by moving or transferring registered pesticides to unauthorized packages. Take note, during registration, the packages are also registered so that we are able to isolate them in the market against the unauthorized packages. The packages in the screen or on the images are not authorized. We have also found some traders changing the manufacturing dates, changing the expiring dates, and changing the batch numbers. And again, this is cheating the consumer because they sometimes add more life to pesticides by increasing the number of years or the shelf life period against the authorized shelf life period. And such products are not efficacious. Now, Kenya situation, we have challenges. Our neighbors, the borders are not they're open borders, so we can cross over to either country freely, and this is a weakness on the monitoring of introduction of illegal pesticides in Kenya. We have also small traders in the suburbs of our cities and some smaller towns where we have workers who are also victims of distributing unauthorized pesticides. And also we have online sales through unregulated online platforms is another avenue where we are experiencing trend of unregistered or illegal or pesticides through online unauthorized platforms. During importation, there are some importers who don't declare in the manifest what they are bringing in, and investigations have established there are some unauthorized pesticides that come with containers and they're not declared on the manifest. And they are largely what we call the loose cargoes, consolidated cargo, where there are many types of products in one container. So along the way, unauthorized pesticides come together with these loose cargoes. Now, there are a number of dangers that go with unregistered pesticides or illegal pesticides. And one of the dangers is the risk in the food stuff because we don't know the science of those pesticides. There's also the risk of exposure to the workers, and we don't know the risk of those pesticides landing on the skin or on the body of the operators. Also, we are likely to lose the crop or fail to manage the public health pests because many of these illegal pesticides are not efficacious. There is the risk also of bringing some harmful effects to human health because they are used in agriculture, and the residues may be harmful to human because we do not have the toxicological standards, we don't have the safety standards around these pesticides. Again, there is loss of government revenue once this trend happens because they are not regulated, so they evade the tax. We also have a problem of the efficacy of these such products, as I said earlier, and this now defeats the genuine products. The illegal pesticides, they are defeating the authorized pesticides. Again, this is now unfair business, and they can push out the genuine business out of the market. We also disposing them is expensive, and because again we don't know the ecotoxicological properties of these products, we don't know the fit of these products in the environment, they are likely to cause harmful effects in the groundwater, in the soils, and even in our food crops after we go crops on such and the soils that are be contaminated with these illegal pesticides. We have the issues of MR incidences. Again, this will happen because we don't have standards around these pesticides to guide on the pre-harvest intervals and also to guide the level of residues in the resultant produce. So again, there's a risk of consuming the unauthorized or illegal pesticides and may have harmful effect to the consumers of such products. Now we have put out a number of strategies to address the situation, and number one is that we have deployed our officers along the identifying the border posts to control the entry of pesticides. We are doing the risk-based inspection. This means where we have identified through our intelligence such areas are given priorities. There's big collaboration with other government agencies at the border posts. We have trained the counterparts in other ministries. They can give support to pest control borders board on the control of illegal pesticides. They are able to identify them and share with us the information, and we are able to arrest the situation and we disallow such products gaining entry into our country. Companies are involved in transport. We have also done sensitizations on them on how to identify illegal pesticides. And this also provides a platform for reduction of introduction of illegal pesticides through the transport system. And within Eastern Africa, so that we can have this problem finally resolved, we are in an advanced stage to have a common registration in Eastern Africa. And this does not allow a free trade of pesticides. We register in Kenya, our neighbors don't need to register it. And now this one will bring the population or quantities of illegal pesticides down. Now we remain with the controlling other sources beyond East Africa. We organize also regularly with the other enforcing agencies in the country, the Kenya Police and the administration offices and other departments that are involved in enforcement to do regular operations along targeted areas. And these are the activities we call RINs. And we have also involving the National Intelligence Service team to gather intelligence on where these pesticides could be located. And using such information, we're able to invent these warehouses and arrest the situation. The Kenya law also provides prosecution to anyone who handles illegal pesticides and their punishments. And we are reviewing them again and again so that it become more punitive.
Also, 1 more minute, Lawrence.
Thank you. Also, we are also building capacity on our farmers and growers so they're equally able to identify the illegal pesticides for the genuine, because upon separating the illegal and genuine, then the illegal ones will have no space in the farming community, because the farmers will be able to identify them and decline procuring the same. We are also monitoring all the dealers along the chain. All the dealers in the pesticides industry are also monitored by the pest control borders team. And along at the same time, we collect samples to confirm the quality of these pesticides maintained. All what is illegal is seized as per our law and destroyed, and the culprits are punished as per the law. We have also engaged our communication authority or department to also bring down the illegal online platforms that are trending or supporting trend of illegal or pesticides, including the carrier system, the transport system, and online programs. All online platforms are being given notice, and we have dropped a few of them. I talked about awareness creation in many forms, road shows, through the radio, the TVs, in both local languages, international languages. All these messages are reaching the population, again, to defeat a space for illegal pesticides in Kenya. We have had discussion also with the judiciary so that they can just put the sentences to the accused persons as per the law. And even sometimes we even encourage them to be punished even without option of fine. They feel the punishment, so that now this business is reduced or eradicated altogether. Thank you very much.
Lawrence, that was fantastic. And just if you could just go back to your last slide, because I don't want you to skip over this one, and just that I know that you have been very busy working with your colleagues in neighboring countries to combat the cross-border trade of pesticides. So it's very exciting work, and you've got a very comprehensive program. Just a couple of quick questions because we're a bit tight on time, but I do want to come back at the end of this whole webinar for a panel session. But a question to you is, what's the most difficult challenge that you're facing in this area of combating illegal pesticides?
The most difficult where we have the biggest problem is the border porosity. There is free movement of illegal pesticides within Eastern Africa, And also some of them come very far as China. They land in Kenya and they gain entry through our neighboring countries. Reason our border posts, our ports, we've intensified surveillance. So they pass through other countries and introduce the same in our country. That's the biggest problem is cross-border movement. The other problem is identification of the counterfeits because of the technology. It's very difficult for ordinary farmer to separate a counterfeit from a genuine because physical appearance is the same. Is an area which is also a big problem for the farmers.
Excellent. That's very interesting. And you showed some fantastic pictures there as well. And you would not know almost if the difference. So I can imagine how hard it is for farmers to identify the differences as well. Lawrence, that was a fantastic presentation. Please stay with us. We'll have a few questions for you at the end of the webinar. But that's very, very interesting. And I think we can learn a lot from what you're doing in Kenya. And I'm sure other countries and officials and policymakers and stakeholders will be interested in finding out lessons learned. So thank you so much for joining us. I'm just going to move on quite quickly so that we can keep up our time and so we can have questions at the end. Lawrence, there are some questions for you in the Q&A, and if you could, or a member of your team, if you could go in there and answer a few in writing, that would be most appreciated. So thank you very much. So thank you to Laos and Kenya for sharing your experiences. I'd like to now move on to our next presentation, which is going to be from CropLife Asia. And I'm very pleased to introduce Marie Fong, who's the Associate Director, Stewardship and Stakeholder Partnership at CropLife Asia. It's very nice to have you join us.
Thank you, Liliana. Can I check with you? Can you see my PowerPoint screen?
Yeah, it's just loading into full screen. So I'll just give it a second. It's taking a little bit of time.
Is it the full screen?
No, it's not no. You need to just change your display settings. Yep. Just swap presenter view and slideshow, I think.
Okay. I believe now it's the full screen.
It's perfect. So you are most welcome to start, Marie. Welcome.
Okay. Thank you so much. My name is Marie Go from the CropLife Asia, representing from the Singapore office. So today I'll be sharing on the countering the illicit trade of the pesticide. I'll be sharing the global best practices on the industry initiative collaboration, what is the partnership and enforcement initiated by our regional from the global, including our national association, and the risk that's being posed. So the content of my presentation. Hold on first, please allow me to have a laser pointer. So just to allow that this presentation, it will be just for the information and education purpose only. And I'll be bringing over first to you to introducing who we are, and then we will follow by the illicit trade of the pesticide. And then there will be a few sharing session talking about the global best practices and enforcement. And I'll also be touching a little bit the initiative about what we do in the illicit trade of the pesticide on the e-commerce platform. So first of all, we operate in the 94 country, where you can see there's a total of the 6 regional association, and our headquarters, CropLife International, based in Brussels in Belgium. Whereas for the CropLife Asia, we have 6 members company and 15 national association where we support across the Asia region on the sustainable and the food supply through the plant science and also the biotech. So I will be focusing, I'm not going to bring you through the definition of the illicit trade of the pesticide, because the speakers from the Laos as well as the Mr. Lawrence from Kenya, I believe that have bring you to the definition. So what I want to bring you to is that what the initiative, when you look at this, the global chart, the counterfeit and illicit trade pesticide is not just happening across the Asia itself, such as we have the report coming from the FICRI from the India itself. We have the illegal pesticide constitutes of approximately 25% of the value, total domestic market share, and the agrochemicals. but you also can see there's other report coming from the European Union about the 14% on the European markers. We have globally coming from the OECD as a report, and same go for the Africa and Latin America, where you can see the concern all over the world. So this risk of the what we call the illicit or non-resistant pesticide, of course, is pose a very high risk and the impact, which is very critical. I'm not going to the detail, but you have seen the first and the second presentation mention about the unknown toxicity coming from this, the untested active ingredient, causing the hazards to the human health, how is the contamination to the environment, such as the soil and water pollution, biodiversity, including the non-targeted species, and of course also the residues. But that's also triggered these other critical challenge, example, to the farmers where have economic losses on the crop failures where it's a harvested product, and also it's create the unfair competitions to the legitimate manufacturers where the governments will lose the taxes when the illegal counterfeiters or the illegal sellers that is not paying the tax from this unfair competition. And of course, most important is that we also having a trigger difficulty when the public will start to losing the confidence, to the product, and also trigger the food security threats actually to the national supply of the country and also the regulatory possessions. So what do we see, as any difference between the crop protections product, which is protect our crop, helping the farmers from the pests and diseases, whereas, we have the product from the drugs and the medicines from the pharmaceutical industry. As you can see from the regulatory, we are controlled very strictly by the regulators where we undergoing the pre-market authorization, seller's requirement to ensure it must be required with the licensed dealer to be sales, end user control such as by the authority. You have including the safety communication with the labeling the information, follow the national authority requirement, including the FAO, WHO classification, and also you have the supply chain control. For examples, for the crop protection industry, where we have a plant science, we do promote the life cycle stewardship, and same go for the pharmaceuticals. So these areas of the regulatory framework that I'm going to share with you. So what do the initiative by the CropLife when we're coming to the global as well as in the region, the best practices that we're tackling is illicit trade. So one of the examples that we have from our CropLife International, we collaborate together with the European Union's Europol and also Interpol, where you can see the Civil Acts, the program, the operation have been starting since the 2012, and over this number of the years, there have been the seizures that's going for the total of 6,961 tons of illegal pesticide. That's the whole years of the operation. So the other partnerships and the contribution coming from our global, including we contribute the documentations with the collaboration together with the UNICRI and also with the Trusted, working together with the EU ASEAN Business Council. This is a different publication, the document, where it's specifically to mention about the illicit trade of the pesticide, and especially for the UNICRI, it's not just talking about the food security, but how illicit trade trigger the organized crime and food supply integrity. The others related matter, we have also to mention what we do, not just as a collaboration with the enforcement, but we do have the education by our colleagues in a different region. For example, we have publication from our Australia colleague on the educations on illicit trade of the agrochemicals. We have coming also from the example from our CropLife India, where they're running educations on these, what we call the mobile, to play the video to educate the farmers. You have the publication from one of our SPF country, Thailand, and also the translation of the material into local languages. This is what you call the no three key questions when you are selling, where you educate the farmers. So the other collaboration or the support that we have these have also including what we have support with the national authority to done various of the national, like control the border is a program by the China team. We have the Indonesia's team as also one of the SPMF country, and then the national authority come up with the publications of the material to educate the public on this illegal. And then we also have the some of the photos sharing with you where the national authority, for example, from Bangladesh, do all the CSIS and the program as an intelligent information. So the next I'll be just a little bit also to cover that CropLife itself. We do not just to advocate illicit trade of pesticide, what we call the control of the physical store of this illegal pesticide. We do also collaborate and take our long initiative on the online platform. So again, you look at this, I do not need to go through, but you do not know that sometimes you see from all this the platform, where do they claim, where it's not properly labeled, and this one, when they put it is into the wild, proper label is compared to what is being approved by the national authority, is have the, what we call the national language and everything, which trigger, all pose all the risk to the consumers as well as the user. So we have the collaborations as coming from a global, for example, the trustee as well. Again, that for the years back, we have been also the publication and another material, what we call tackling sale of illicit pesticide on the e-commerce platform. And also one of the very good example, you can see even the FPA from EPA from the United States, they also coming what we call the pesticide in the e-commerce on the fake ship. So the other, I believe that some of you might have already have this material which already pre-shared during the documentation. This CropLife itself, we are mandatory adherence to the international code conduct. So this is one of the guidance notes on the online sales of pesticide. We encourage you to overseas to refer to this documentation, because on this the key recommendation where we have been working in, we have the expert to providing as under the GMPM to mention about what the national authority can be done, to updating the law related to ensuring information accurate, what is the reporting system, example by the e-commerce platform, any trainings, and including the regulatory agency. So this is a whole overall the package. I mean that what you can see from this FAO-WHO guideline, the document mentioning from the registration, licensing, packaging and labeling, transportation safety in international treaties, and also addressing on the online channel of the specifics.
20 seconds, Mari.
Yeah, so this is other enforcement information that you can see leading from the authority. And we do also stress and emphasize on the platform have to share the responsible where you have the seller identity listing program. And some of them, the e-commerce platform where we are collaborating with, they do also using the AI and smart monitoring. There will be a response protocol like takedown notice, and also the geofencing, and of course the collaboration where the e-commerce platform work with the regulators to support, the investigation. And the other, just to share with you that under the initiative by our colleagues, we also have the observing some of the latest development from the China, where the MARA have a latest law to putting on the e-commerce regulations. Another is on the Vietnam's as part of the e-commerce law, which is taken effectively and is over the years of the publication. So my final take of this, my sharing the session of the today, I'd like to call for the action themes with all the speakers of today, how we can tackling and reduce the illicit of the pesticide, including the regulators and the support, the manufacturers with what you have mentioned, know your customer program, and distributor to ensure the source compliant product, know your supplier, law enforcement by the authority, as well as from the farmers to ensure education to use legitimate and also the registered pesticide. And of course, do emphasize again that through our advocacy working on the platform, we always do emphasize on the 3 key messages from the transit. There's ensure sellers have license to sell in the country for use, store the license must be have a very patient by the regulators, and also the most importantly that must ensure that all these platform must be ensured that there's only the registered pesticide are available for online sales. With that, thank you, my sharing session.
Thank you so much, Maureen. There's a lot of information in your presentation, and you'll probably have some questions in the Q&A that you'll be able to answer as well. Just while we're moving to our next speaker from the private sector, which is Liliana Downs, the Head of Corporate Security Intelligence at the Syngenta Group, for a perspective from a company perspective. I just have a quick question, and Liliana, feel free to share your presentation while I just ask Marie a question. And I saw some great sort of farmer-based training with screens there, and I was interested in what have you found in your sort of training on the farm or at farm level with farmers? What's been the most useful interventions you found with farmers directly in educating them around illegal and illicit pesticides?
Thanks, Alison. I think what we have been found sometimes that the farmers are being found that there's no difference between the registered and the illegal product. So where we have our education to reach out to the farmers, including we have a collaboration. For example, we work in the region through the ASEAN member state the program on this enforcement, but at the same time, our regional or maybe the local colleagues from the National Association, they will collaborate with the national authority to educate the farmers on to differentiate the differences on this, what you call the registered and unregistered product. And there's also to show some authority there is some product that being tested as a proof to the farmer to build up the confidence why there's a difference, that's between the registered and illegal product, where you expand the farmer and including the farmer's behavior, like to ensure that it's using the registered product.
Okay,
Yeah.
excellent. Thanks, Marie. Thank you so much. I'm just going to move quickly to Liliana now. Liliana, thanks for sharing your screen. If you want to start, it'd be fantastic to hear from you, particularly on this topic around AI and intelligence sharing. So thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you, Alison. Hi all, I'm really pleased to be here. My name is Liliana. I am heading the intelligence team at Syngenta Group. I've been with the company for about 6 years now. My background is mainly in organized crime, so the agricultural industry was sort of new to me. But I'm really enjoying learning more and more and attending webinars and seeing the industry in itself and how we can collaborate a bit more closely. I think it's really good to see. So on today's webinar, basically I'm going to be sharing some of what we do at Syngenta Group and at the Corporate Security Department, and how we tackle basically the illegal pesticide sales. In our team at Corporate Security, it's mainly focusing on traditional corporate security measures, but we have a so-called anti-illicit trade program. So we basically split the programs, and then even within the programs, we're sort of split into online and offline. So my team is responsible for the online detection, which is where we sort of incorporate the AI element to it. And then we have investigators on the ground, and we collaborate with them and also law enforcement to sort of end the investigations in seizures and raids. Some of those were the pictures that were all shared from the previous speakers, and some of Mary's, for example, presentations on the Europol Zero X operations. We work closely with them as well and share intelligence where we can. I guess for me, the context around illegal pesticides and how that has evolved over the past few years or decade even, I would probably say that I think it's really moved from a traditional sales on the ground into more a complex digital global threat. So what we have observed, particularly after the pandemic, we have seen that a lot of the sales have gone online. So we are observing a lot of e-commerce platforms and social media even now, where we are seeing Syngenta products advertised, and not only Syngenta but competitor products as well as chemicals and active ingredients. So particularly for countries where we are seeing regulations pushed in and sort of stopping the sale of agrochemicals online, we're seeing a shift from e-commerce into social media. And now we are seeing some countries tackling the social media issue and banning them. But it's sort of good in a way, but also I think it's creating the problem of losing visibility on where the products are advertised because they can move into closed groups. And we have seen that in a few countries recently. The other issue that we are seeing is it's a multilingual operation, so the sellers are advertising products in various different languages, which makes it harder for us to track and monitor and enforce. And the last piece that we have sort of issues with is the fragmented intelligence. So different stakeholders would hold on to different intelligence, and that particularly applies to major companies, I suppose, where we have teams on the ground, we have teams on a global scale, and we work with law enforcement and we work with certain regulatory bodies, and we might not have the bigger picture and understand what kind of information we have. So the problem with the illegal pesticides on a digital scale is that the scale of it and also the complexity of it has now really exceeded the traditional enforcement capabilities. So what we do at Syngenta is basically, like Alison's mentioned, we try to tackle this problem with technology and incorporating AI. We have been on the lookout for technology to monitor the online space. What we struggled with was we had technologies that focused on either the online part, or we had providers who could support us with the offline part, but we never really had an option where we could incorporate the two. So we come up with our own solution. So we have our own technology in-house that we have built, and it's basically technology looking at the online space, and then we monitor the online space, and that goes for both e-commerce and social media. We also have now, I think over the past, I'd say 2 years, we have observed a lot of brand protection programs on e-commerce. So we're seeing a shift as well with the e-commerce being a bit more open and willing to support brand owners as well with the protection. So our own technology is using AI. So the way it works is we monitor the online space, and we monitor keywords basically of our targets. So whether those are keywords or product names or active ingredients, and they are specific to region and country. So it's flexible for us, so we can monitor where we see there is an issue. We can adjust the system, we can adjust the technology. And the part where we use AI is mainly with the scale of it. So we are able to monitor more and also help us prioritize our work. So we have like a risk scoring that we implement into our technology. So the way it works is we assign certain scores to certain keywords and images. So if we know that there is a product or an active ingredient causing an issue in a certain country, we can adjust the risk scoring accordingly. And that would allow the intelligence team to see the highest priority products basically on top of the queue. So it's still sort of a manual element because so the intelligence team is still monitoring the online space and seeing where the products might be advertised. So that part is still manual, and it's still the subject matter expertise of the intelligence team to find where the products might be advertised. What AI helps us with and the technology helps us with is more the scale of it. So we can really monitor and then have that in the background to see what the results are, see if we have any issues in particular countries, see what's being advertised online. And then with the risk scoring, we're able to prioritize our work and then focus on the products that matter the most to the business or the country on a country level. What we then do is we basically try to build a bigger picture. So we have a case management system. We had a previous one as well. So we have data going back about 6 years now. So what we try to do is really map the networks and identify any patterns for countries and regions and products. So we really want to stop the products at source. So we're not really interested in small cases. I mean, we are monitoring, and we also have a team dedicated to look at the takedowns and identifying, if there's any regulatory issue, then we tackle that. But what we're really seeing is, like Mary shared on her slide, we are seeing active ingredients or just the chemicals being advertised online. And then we work with providers as well externally to see where those products might be exported to and who's the one importing that. And then using the intelligence that we have going back years, we can really see if those entities we've had issues with, or we had any investigations involving those individuals or companies or entities. So we really just want to see basically the network and where the bigger picture is for the investigations.
1 minute, Liliana.
Okay, thank you. And then basically what we then do is, I think this is the most crucial part for us as well, is the coordination. So we have to make sure that whatever we do it together, whether that's the industry or whether that's competitors or whether that's law enforcement, because we can't do it alone. And really we are facing the same problems, potentially the same entities. So for a lot of the regions, we're seeing really good collaborations. Especially when it comes to problems that are impacting the wider industry as well. I think using some of the industry associations as well, we've been able to tackle some of the problems. Basically, that's the end of my presentation. What this allows for us basically is we can really identify the illicit activity sooner. So that helps with like sort of the scale part of it. So the AI and the technology part helps with the scale. And then we can really focus our priority on the cases that matter the most. The intelligence helps us build a bigger picture so we can again be a bit more targeted. And with the enforcement and the cooperation, we can really make an impact, because without cooperation, we can't actually get anywhere with the cases. So we're really always on the lookout to make sure that we have good collaboration on the ground, and we're willing to share intelligence. We have the capabilities, but it's that working together part where we can really achieve results on the ground. Thank you.
Liliana, that's fascinating, very interesting, and I like the emphasis there on collaboration and prioritization. I think came through clearly as well. It seems a very large and kind of complex issue, and all those different channels, I guess, for reaching out, and that illegal trade sort of flows through as well, and communications is yeah, definitely a challenge for everyone. Just a quick question for you, and then we're going to move on to our speakers from the sort of international framework. So if FAO could maybe load their slides while we're talking, and we're going to hear first from Oksana Permanova, the agricultural officer in the pest and pesticide management team at FAO. But Liliana, just a question for you. We're likely to be going through a period of rising input costs over the next sort of coming days, months. Hopefully not too high, but do you see that, is that an issue for this issue with those rising input costs? Is it likely that you'll see more pressure around rising illegal trade of pesticides? Is that something that is of concern?
Yeah, so I think obviously certain actions have certain implications. So I guess it will have implications, and I think for us it's also important to sort of remember to keep up with all the recent changes. And then for us it's hard to tackle that on a global scale, because with all the regulations changing and certain actions that's impacting our work, and not always we are aware of that, because like on a global scale it's hard to monitor even if we have teams on the ground. We're seeing changes after certain actions, but it's hard to sort of gauge what's going to happen in the future. So I think the best we can do is really just monitor and do our best. And if we know of certain issues causing, really it's we get a lot of intelligence from farmers on the ground as well. So we have our teams on the ground really working closely with them to know of any issues. I guess it goes with the collaboration part as well. So we can only really have actual results if we work closely together. And that goes for farmers, law enforcement, yeah, competitors either, or we basically have like a open working relationship to tackle sort of issues that would be creating kind of like the health and safety issues on the ground.
Fantastic. Liliana, thank you so much. I think you've probably got some questions in the Q&A. If you can take a look and maybe
Thank you.
answer a few, that would be most appreciated.
Thank you.
Yeah, very interesting. And I see there's lots of chat in the chat. And there's some resources that have been shared from OECD there as well that are very useful and on this topic. So thank you so much, Liliana. Thank you, Marie. I'm hoping to have a bit of time to come back, but I'm going to move quite quickly to FAO, who have a joint presentation today. And I think, Oksana, you're going to start. If you could share your screen.
Thank
I
you.
think, yes, or somebody could share your screen. That would be
Yeah, thank
Yes.
you very much, Alison. Indeed, today I'm going to have a co-presentation with my colleague, Miss Carmen Bullon. And can I ask Carmen kindly to share the presentation? So while Carmen is going to share the presentation, I just will give a very quick introduction. So my name is Oksana Perminova, and I'm Agricultural Officer and Pesticide Management Team in FAO. Today I will be co-presenting this presentation with my colleague, Ms. Carmen Bullon, who is a legal officer and FAO as well. So thank you very much, Carmen.
Yes, just sorry, Oksana, it said that I cannot share my screen because it's disabled.
I
We
think your
tried
screen's
before and
shared.
it was working, and I cannot start my video either because it's also disabled. There's something happening there.
I can see it now. The presentation is on.
Yes, so let me try the other thing
And the
now.
video as well.
Perfect.
And the video.
So, can you confirm you can see my screen and this is in presentation mode?
Yes, yes, we can.
Thank you.
Good.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Carmen. So we continue our discussion, and in this presentation, we introduce a code of conduct on pesticide management and guidance note on addressing illegal trade of pesticides, which offer practical guidance to tackle this specific challenge. I have noticed already that some of our colleagues been mentioning the guidance note, and they've been also mentioning the guidance note on the online sale as well. So that works in the combination with the code of conduct. So it is very clear that today illegal pesticide trade poses significant risk to human health and environment, but it's also extremely clear to us that it is posing a risk to agricultural sustainability. It also undermines regulatory frameworks. So to address these particular challenges, the International Code of Conduct on Pesticide Management, which was developed jointly with the WHO and FAO, provides a comprehensive framework for the sound management of pesticides, but throughout their life cycle. That means from the production to disposal part. And that also includes measures to combat illegal trade. It is a voluntary framework to guide several stakeholders, starting with the government. It is an industry involvement, a civil society involvement, practically in the others. So in responsible management of the pesticides, this code also emphasizes the importance of addressing illegal trade as part of the broader strategy for sustainable pesticide management. I just want to give you a little bit of their main objectives of this code. So it promotes responsible trade practices. It's also strengthening regulatory frameworks. It enhancing transparency and traceability. It protects human health and environment, and it is also encouraging multi-stakeholder collaboration. So this is what our colleagues has been talking really for their just an hour about this collaboration part. So the code itself, it's supported by several guidelines. And again, I'm mentioning that because I also saw that they've been in discussion that many people were emphasizing that there is a different type of the guidance note. So including the FAO and WHO guidance note on illegal trade of pesticides, which provides more practical recommendations for implementing the code of conduct to combat illegal trade. So I would like to hand over to my colleague, Carmen, who will introduce the guidance note on addressing illegal trade of pesticides and explain how it serves as a framework of tackle these issues. Thank you, and Carmen, is over to you.
Yes, thank you very much, Oksana. So indeed, the guidance note on addressing illegal trade of pesticides is one of the very many guidance published under the Code of Conduct on pesticides management that serves for facilitating the implementation. And as Oksana has mentioned, these guidance are developed by the Joint Meeting of Pesticides Management that's composed of different private and public entities and different organizations. So this guidance note that has been already mentioned includes a number of different recommendations for addressing the illegal trade of pesticides. It's important to say that the definition of illegal pesticide that the guidance incorporates is the definition of the OECD. This has been mentioned by Leo as well in the chat, which is any pesticide which for whatever reason is not legal in the country of destination. So this is a very broad definition. It includes the categories of counterfeit, fake, obsolete, or unauthorized pesticides, meaning that it doesn't need, it's not necessary for a product to be counterfeited or false to be illegal, just the fact that it's not registered in the country where it's being used, or maybe if it's registered for one specific use, but then is sold for a different use. All these are considered illegal pesticides for the purpose of this guidance note. And the guidance note also adopts a very broad trade definition, understanding by that any trade of pesticides, including biopesticides, that does not adhere to one or more legal obligations at the national level. So it's really very broad, and it includes all sorts of trade methods, so that they might be sold in unauthorized establishments, but also that might be sold with unauthorized labels or unauthorized packages, or in any other way are not following the standards and the requirements that have been for which the pesticide has been authorized, or maybe also in illegal markets, maybe a pesticide is not authorized for export or import, or I mean in any other way. So this is a massive organized threat to global security, and it covers a lot of different actions that are illicit. I've mentioned this a bit, but it really results in unfair market practices, unfair trade practices, also in unauthorized imports. Sometimes these are through porous borders where there is no inspection, but sometimes they just find a way to contravene the inspection mechanisms. And it leads, because of the lack of control, also to problems associated to obsolete substances and stocks of obsolete pesticides. There are different drivers. Sometimes these are driven by transnational organized crime groups, but sometimes they are also using porous borders in a less structured way. There are supply chains that use different trade channels, and the colleagues have referred before to the increasing challenges associated to the online sales of pesticides. Indeed, there is also another guidance note on the online sales of pesticides, and these two documents need to be read in conjunction, as there are many references across the two of them. Online sales can be undertaken directly by the platform of the shop that's selling the product, but of course, the accountability of the seller is far more difficult to enforce than in brick and mortar retail. But sometimes this is done through platforms, and sometimes these platforms in some countries, their regulatory framework does not really include a specific responsibility for the platform to ensure that the products that are sold in that platform are legal. So countries often try to address this by strengthening the legislation on the internet platforms themselves. Sometimes these platforms can do international trade, and sometimes this trade is also, it goes through trade for self-consumption. So in that way, it also overrides some border controls,
30
import
seconds,
controls.
Carmen.
Pardon me?
30 seconds, Carmen.
Yes. So there are many ways in which these works, and indeed it creates a lot of challenges, including human health, but also animal health, environmental challenges, and economic and agricultural. It's really a One Health challenge. So the guidance provides a number of different strategies that include, and most of these have been mentioned by colleagues, raise public awareness, promote responsible trade, strengthening international cooperation, including with organizations such as UNICRI or UNODC that work on international crime, to modernize the legal frameworks, the regulatory frameworks, and more specifically, coordinate enforcement efforts among different authorities and the sharing of information. And finally, there are different things that can be done by strengthening national legislation, including first strengthening market control, but also better regulating pesticides through a life cycle approach, improve post-registration surveillance, including coordinated mechanisms that span across different ministries and authorities with a role on pesticides management, strengthening enforcement mandates, and also deterrent sanctions. Often the problem is that sanctions are not deterrent enough, so non-compliance has no cost. This is all from our side, Alison and
Thanks,
colleagues.
Carmen.
I'm very happy to be here with you.
Thank you, Carmen, and thank you, Oksana. And just I'd just like to invite our last speaker. We may just be like 5 minutes over time, or a couple of minutes over time, but I'd like to invite Lina Fortelius, Program Officer at the Secretariat of the Basel, Rotterdam, and Stockholm Convention, to share your screen and join us. And I'm just going to ask a quick question to Oksana while you're getting your screen ready. Oksana, how can regulators be helped to carry out periodic inventories since illegal pesticides come through porous borders? This was one of the questions that we had as one of our registration questions. Is that something you can help us with?
Thank you very much, Alison, for this question. Well, we must say from the observation from the FEO side, this is the multi-layer approach, and that has to be taken, first of all, with the interagency cooperation at the governmental level. That's one of the very, very crucial points. There is now we can see that a lot of countries actually moving to the point of the digital traceability, which is in a very interesting situation, I would say, and within an internet coverage, this is a really helpful point. So we have quite a lot of examples where the countries are moving to this direction as well. There is certainly the international frameworks which needs to be taken into account, and we need to strengthen this as much as possible. At that point, there is a community engagement as well. So it's a extremely multi-layered approach, which has to be looking in a very comprehensive way. And I'm coming back to the code of conduct in this case. So I must say that this is one of the really good guidance in sense of like how this can be taken, even if we are talking about the inventories in a sense. Now, in terms of the regulatory and specifically for the registration processes, I must say there is one point I would like to clarify, if I may, because I saw that there have been a series of the exchange and in their chat. So I just want to clarify that FEO does not have a generic electronic pesticide registration system at the global level. We do not promote the generic registration system itself. What we are doing, we are having their registration toolkit, which is helping countries to strengthen their capacities. So we are particularly working on strengthening the capacities of the registrars, which is within the country. In terms of the electronic system, I may assume colleagues are referring some pilots specifically, which has been done perhaps in the Central Asia part, and that pilot may serve as a good example for the other regions. Thank you. I wanted to clarify that point.
No, thank you. Thank you very much, Oksana. Thank you very much for, I guess, just reminding us we've got this very strong backbone in the code of conduct there that can help shape all our efforts. And again, that message around collaboration, working across different stakeholders and working together in a transparent way. So thank you so much, Oksana and Carmen. Thank you for sharing with us that sort of quick overview of the code of conduct and work there at FAO. I'm going to now move on to Lina. Lina, you can start, and you have your 5 minutes. So we will just end a little bit late today, but not by too much.
Okay, thank you so much. Let me start. My name is Lina Fortelius. I'm going to be with you represent the Basel, Rotterdam, and Stockholm conventions, and I'm very pleased to be here today, we'll see if I can make this yes, so we have 3 conventions. Today I will straight jump into the Rotterdam Convention, and the Rotterdam is then linked to not only Basel and Stockholm Convention, but also the Minamata and the Global Framework of Chemicals. And these are all like relevant legally binding multilateral environment agreements on chemicals and wastes. The objective of the Rotterdam Convention is to promote shared responsibility and cooperative efforts by facilitating information exchange about certain hazardous chemicals characteristics in international trade. And it does not recommend to ban or severely restrict the use of these chemicals. And the scope of the convention set out in Article 3, it applies to banned or severely restricted chemicals and severely hazardous pesticides formulations. I was asked to talk a bit about the PIC procedure, so let me straight go into that. There is also a PIC procedure under the Basel Convention, just to make sure that you don't mix up these two. So today I'm talking about the PIC procedure under the Rotterdam Convention. And it's an integrated part of the convention, and it provides parties with a means to assess risks and to decide whether they will allow future imports of Annex 3 chemicals. And it's a means for formally obtaining and disseminating the decisions of parties regarding future imports of these chemicals. So in a nutshell, exporting parties are obliged to ensure that exports do not occur contrary to import responses. And the PIC procedure ensures that the Annex 3 chemicals are not exported without prior informed consent of importing party. So the steps of the PIC procedure is the following. The COP decides to list the chemical in Annex 3 of the convention and adopt the DGD. And this is then distributed to all the convention's contact points, official contact points to the convention. And then the parties will take a national decision on this. So they will take a decision on future imports of the chemical by transmitting import responses. And then the Secretariat will disseminate these import responses via the PIC circular. And the Secretariat will remind parties that failed to submit import responses to do so. And then finally, the parties communicate the import responses to domestic stakeholders and ensures that the domestic exporters comply with the import responses that they have received. So the key documents for the PIC procedure under the Rotterdam Convention is a PIC circular that provides information for information exchange, import responses and notifications of FRAs, and these are published every 6 months, one in June and one in December, and it's used by all parties to the Rotterdam Convention to inform of the domestic stakeholders. And the key documents for the PIC procedure, so there is the decision guidance document, that is a document that is prepared by expert committee under the Secretariat, and is then that has all, it's sent to parties, and it contains information about the chemical's characteristics, and it has a summary of why the chemical was banned or severely restricted for problems under the conditions of use. And the role of the DDGs, or the decision guidance documents in the PIC procedure, is to help governments to assess risks connected with handling and use, and to enable informed decisions about future import. So I see my time is up. I will not go into, I will jump a couple of slides that they will share with you later in today. But which considerations could be taken into account when taking a decision of future imports is current production of use, existing chemicals management if infrastructure in the country, comparability with the notifying party, available of alternatives, obligations under the Stockholm Convention if the party is also a party to the Stockholm Convention, Annex 3 categories, trade neutrality, and national consultations. So I have a couple of more slides that I can share with you after this presentation, and I have a couple of guidance documents that I will share in the chat with you. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to be with you here today, and I hope that you got a little bit of better understanding of what the PIC procedure of the Rotterdam Convention is all about. Thank you.
Lina, thank you so much, and thank you for sharing all the information. I can see those resources will be very useful as well. We're come to a bit of an end. We're 4 minutes late, so I'm going to actually just do a bit of a sort of quick thank you to everyone and all our speakers. We won't have time for a panel discussion, but what we are going to do, and here's all our speakers here, fantastic presentations. We will be sharing all your presentations, and we'll be sharing also a guidance note that gives background information and resources. We'll also be inviting all of the participants of this webinar to join us in the Green Forum, whereas that's another place you can ask questions, and you can also have some interaction with some of the speakers. We have our jefffarm.org website there if you want to find out more about farms, so please also visit that. But we'll be sending out an email to everyone who attended or registered for this webinar today, so you'll be able to find out more information. So again, I'd just like to thank all our speakers, from our country teams to our private sector perspectives, and then to our international organisations and framework support there. It's been very, very interesting, very rich discussion, lots of questions. We haven't had time to answer all those questions, but we'll put them in a Q&A and we'll share answers to your questions and circulate that as well. Thank you to all the participants. There was many of you, 250 plus, fantastic turnout, and you're a very engaging audience. So a big thank you from me to you. And also to those helping in the background on the farm team. So I can see that we have quite a big farm team here joining us in the back, but we have Helena, Elena, we have Aditi who's been helping with the slides, and also Nadia who's been a key person in organising this webinar. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time for more discussion. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.